Hi, my name is Ashish, and in this video, we are going to create some very basic materials which are generally used for VFX or whenever we are creating any effects in Niagara. So, these are very super basic materials which you can use in your own project, and it is like completely beginner friendly. And you can always build on top of these or merge, mix, and match all these materials and use. The very first basic thing, what we generally use in most of the projects is a glue material, right? So glue or sparks, all those kind of effects. I will create a material first. I'll rename it additive, like underscore additive, which is like master material. Right? I'll just go inside there and open the material. So we have our on material properties here, right? What is the base color, metallic, specular, everything here, and the properties are here. So what blend mode we want additive, right? We can select it additive, and if you want default lit or unlit, it totally depends on your project, but I'll do it unlit, right? So now there comes an option of two-sided, if the material we want is supposed to be two-sided or not. Okay, I'll use a texture sample, right? Texture sample, and here I will go search for a glue. I have T underscore glue, right? So I'll just plug that into MSO color. You can see. Now we have selected a plane, so it is showing us on a plane, right? If I select a sphere, it will show us on a sphere, show the texture on a sphere, right? So I'll just do this. You can connect the same channels into opacity, or if you have alpha also, you can channel into opacity. But additive always takes the grayscale values, so white will be prominent, and till it goes to black, like from gray to black, it will keep on fading itself out, right? So uh, there's no need to supply that here inside this, right? So this is our first material, which is additive. Second material is basically translucent. When you click the blend mode to be translucent, now here comes into play our alpha. So additive, it will discard the black values, right? And it will only show you the main part, which is white. But for translucent, everything is there. So now we need a alpha channel to go into opacity, right? So what we can do is use the same channels in opacity as well. So now you can see this is much better. I'll turn off the background for now. Window, preview scene settings, show environment, right? You can see this better, right? Now you can see if I go behind this, there's nothing. So here comes into play this two-sided option. So I'll just turn this two-sided on, and it is there. Now you can see on both sides. So we can use this material for glue. Mainly we can use it for glue, and we can change the textures, use sparks kind of textures, or we can use the same texture. And in Niagara we can squash and stretch to make it like a sparks, right? So these are two of our first materials which we generally use. Second material is generally what we use is to distort some kind of a texture. So I'll create another material, distortion. Okay, I'll make it additive, let's say. Translucent, and I'll make it unlit, right? So right now you can see it's just a single plane, and you can make it two-sided if you want. If you don't want, keep it as it is, right? I'll take a texture first, and I want to use some textures from this healing sword. Okay. I have this textures made in Photoshop, right? I just made this, and now I want these textures to have some distorted values which I can basically pan around, so it becomes an aura kind of thing, right? go to distortion. I will close this and I'll go to distortion. I plug this into emissive and opacity both. You can see how this looks. Correct. Now I will take a texture coordinate. The shortcut for texture coordinate is if you keep pressing U on your keyboard and just click, you will get a texture coordinate, right? So what we need to do now is use a noise texture, a noise kind of pattern to distort it, right? So we'll take another texture sample, use noise here. Basically, we can use this style noise file, right? Now I want this noise to change the UV of this texture. So our UVs are basically in 0 to 1 box, right? So we will basically supply a texture and those UVs will be distorted to it. So what we need to do is to add into the texture coordinate these values, right? Add these values into the texture coordinates. Correct. I'll keep it here, add it. Directly pull one channel and put in UVs. So you can see how distorted it became. To control this, we have a node called multiply. It's multiplied by 0.1, very small. So now you can see how much distorted this is. If you want to see like live update, you can turn on all node previews and real-time nodes. So it's always updating live on these nodes as well. Now you can see it is distorted. What another thing we can do to just push it further is to use a panner. The panner also contains the same thing. It has coordinate, a time and a speed. So over time, whatever values we give, it basically moves either in X direction or Y direction, right? I'll just put this into the UV. Let's say now I want to move this noise pattern in Y direction because this is a tiling noise. And if I put it Y, so now you see how distorted this looks. So you can use this and all kind of different materials which you're creating. So it will have some very good results when doing it with trails kind of effect, right? There's another distortion material which we'll talk about next. Third material is another distortion kind of material in which we use the property index of refraction from the material, right? A refraction property of the material, you can say that, right? So for that, I will go and create another material, distort, and we can type 1 for now. These kind of materials which right now we are creating are mostly used when we want some like heat waves to show up, some ripples kind of thing, or mostly it's used whenever an explosion is there just to sell the impact of a shock wave, right? So everything will be distorted around the explosion for a little amount of time, right? So for that we don't need any of these like base color material specular, right? I'll just make it translucent and unlit as of now. Okay, so now we need the diffraction property of the material. So you can scroll down, I'll just search for it. Refraction, right? So right now the refraction method is none. We can set it to index of refraction. Correct? So now it is here. So what we need to do now is to create, not create, we can import a noise texture again. I will use the same noise texture. Use this styling noise, anything. I will use this because it is stylable, so it will be useful to you. Now, just to see this, we need to enable our background. So I will go to preview scene settings, show environment, directly supply this to reflection. See what happens. So nothing happens because our opacity is 1. We make it 0. You can see right now there's nothing visible there. We just need to turn the scalability to high because by default our engine, whenever it's set to low or medium, inside here also you can set engine scalability settings, right? So distortion materials are set in a way that it will only be visible when you have some, like our scalability settings set to high. Correct. You can see how distorted it looks, right? Same thing to control these, we can use again the texture coordinate, multiply it. You can use spanner as well, but these are like mostly a quick kind of burst and explosion, and also these are not supposed to stay in the viewport for a long time, in the editor or in the game for a long time. So we won't use spanner for now. I will just tile this to some low value. You can see really well how this looks, right? Probably keep it. So I have some random things to check. By making this much more visible. Okay? So now I will make a multiplier node, and you can promote this to parameter to use it in material instances. Okay? So I will make it intensity. So how much intensity we want for the distortion? I'll make it 2, so you can see how it looks. Right? You can make it two-sided as well. It will give you some issues with UVs of the materials, how you set it up, but it depends on how you want it, right? Let's see. This is the intensity, and we can add any additional values if we want. So now if I add 3 on top of this, see, this is just an additional value to support this, like to distort it a little bit. Keep adding on top of this. Now next material is something which we generally use whenever we are eroding away some parts of whatever we want, or a dissolve kind of a shader, right? Dissolve or eroding kind of effect, correct? So I'll just make material dissolve. Okay. So over time we need to dissolve some texture, right? Or erode some texture, or erode some data from the texture, right? Whatever explanation we want to give it. I'll make it translucent again and unlit, because I don't want to deal with base colors and everything right now, just to explain. But if you have default lit, whatever you're supplying it in emissive color, you can supply in base color as well. Now I will do texture samples. I'll at least take 2 now. Okay. So first is our main texture. Let's say we take our this wall again, and I supply it to emissive color, opacity as well. Save it. I'm gonna turn off the environment as of now. You can see this. Now I want to erode some parts of the textures, like overall, correct? So I'll take another noise, which will be, let's take a different noise this time. I'll take this, the noise one, correct? So now we know how we can tile these nodes, right? So we can use a texture coordinate and multiply it if I put it 2, it will tile it 2 times, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 time in X and 2 time in Y. So it will tile according to that. Again, it will tile by default whatever it is. So now what we can do is basically to erode, we need to give some data into the alpha. So I'll just make this multiply by this, and you see already how much this has affected it, correct? It's eroded or eaten away the parts from the texture, from the main texture by this noise we had supplied here, correct? So now if I want to control this, I can use a power node and keep it here. So 2 times is this. If I put it 0, you'll see there's nothing eroded away. Put 6, it will keep on eroding and eroding all those values, right? So we can promote this to parameter, pushing values or dissolve values, basically. By default, we can keep it 0, 1. If you face any issues, you just save and compile this. So it will automatically read for you, okay? And now this is our whole material. You can, while dissolving, you can pan this as well. So it's a weird kind of effect, but it's also good. So this last material is generally a simple panel which we use for some real kind of effects, which we can use in ribbons or just a simple mesh, a plain mesh, right? It's very simple. Panel. I will make it again translucent and let take a, so will show you a different kind of way to import your texture. Just take this, drag and drop here, so it will automatically create a texture sample for you. So put here, put seam into opacity, and you can see this, right? And now what we can do is basically use a panel. If I move it in X direction, as like whatever speed we give, let's say 0.5. See, you can see it is moved. So you can basically apply this on any texture. If you have some trail kind of texture, you can just take it, put it here as well, save it, right? So now you see these edges. You can even hide this. So if you have any texture which has like some gradient, so you can see now the edges are very harsh. And let's say if you are basically making it on a mesh, right? Applying this on a mesh, it will obviously show you the edges of that. So you want to fade those out. So now I will take a texture coordinate. It has 3 channels, right? Not 3 channels. I'll just mask it as of now. It's a component mask. So we have our 3 channels R, G, and E. So now if I just make it this big, if I turn off R, like just turn on the right channel, so you can see it has something on the right. There is a gradient from black to red. Correct. Now if I add the power in here, see it. If I increase the power a little bit, you can see it basically the gradient shifts a little bit more, right? The same thing. Now what I can do is I can invert this 1 minus x and use the same power. So we have one texture from the left and one from the right. And now what I can do is basically multiply both of them. So now if you multiply, you will lose the middle part, which is basically what we want is to be a little bit more like prominent, right? I'll make it I'll make it a little less. You can see our this thing is here itself. I can make these uh, textures like the power of these nodes very smaller, right? So let's say I will promote this to parameter and use both at the same time to make it two, right? So by default, when you multiply it, obviously both gradients when they collide, there is no middle gap in between that, right? So to create that, we just created this. We multiplied by more value, so it multiplies by itself again. And basically, where it's dark, it will get darker, and where it's light, it will get lighter. So now I can multiply this whole value. Similarly, kind of erosion, right? So multiply the value which is going into the opacity to this. So now you see our edges are very much. Yes. This is a workaround also. So if you don't want your values to go higher than one, right? You can clamp those values as well. And see how this looks. It's quite interesting. I just wanted the edges to be a little bit faded away, not that much as well. This is our last material or panel. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to challenge yourself, try to use all these materials and one of the effects which you are doing. Obviously, you will have to use them eventually, and you can build on top of them as well. But yeah, I will be releasing all these materials as a separate file which you can import it in your content browser just to study or whatever you want to do with it. It will be a Gumroad link. Thank you.